Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station travel show with Nancy and Lisa. So the Fire Monkey is back on the show. This happens I'm going to say it's every fourth Tuesday. I always forget. Every fourth Tuesday, we have the Travel Monkey. The Travel Monkey. Now you've changed your name, Debbie, from the Fire Monkey to the Travel Monkey. But it is Debbie Stone. She is an awesome travel writer. And we always kid about the Fire Monkey. We're not calling her a monkey. But really, the thing is, she got this name when she was in Bhutan. And, she's traveled the world. How many countries now, Debbie?
I think it's
oh my God! I just called you Debbie.
Maybe about close to 90 now. I think.
See,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, this many countries, and the last couple of years during COVID, she made sure she got the rest of the country under control. She went everywhere. And today she's going to talk about Hot Springs, Arkansas, a place that we love and we went to as soon as Arkansas opened up after, during the COVID pandemic. I mean, Arkansas said, we're shut. They opened up the doors and we went in. So she got to, but not everything was as accessible at the time. And she got to do things we didn't get to do. And so between us all, we've had an amazing experience in Hot Springs, but you're going back to Europe, right? I mean, when this airs in August, right? You're going to be in Europe. Are you excited to go overseas?
Absolutely, because I've been chomping at the bit for the past couple of years. I was supposed to have gone almost 3 years ago, and kept getting postponed. And it's like now it's like, oh my gosh! I mean, we kept adding now to our trip, and it's like, okay, as long as we're going to be there, we might as well go do this.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because you never know.
Yeah, you don't. That's why I'm. People are saying, oh, you're going to be gone that long, and I'm like, we need to do it. We just need to do it and forever hold our peace, so to speak,
Yeah, get her done.
You can always go home when things get weird,
Exactly.
And if they, I'm not saying when they do, if they do, you never
Hopefully
know.
they don't.
No, they're not allowed to. You've got stories to report. We want to hear what's going on, but I'm very excited about your story about Hot Springs, Arkansas, and your experiences. And everyone, Debbie's story is up on National Park traveling.com. Look in our Arkansas section or just type in Hot Springs and Debbie. Don't type in Fire Monkey. We don't call her that on the website. We might have to start doing that.
Type in Hot Debbie. Fire Monkey.
Yeah, Fire Monkey. But now you're Travel Monkey. I think I did that on the last show too. It's like it's a travel writer, Fire Monkey. But Hot Springs, was really interesting. And I'm really glad you went there because when we got there, like just driving, we did Little Rock and then we did Hot Springs, and there is something magical about this entire state. And right now we're actually recording in Fayetteville. Apparently it's not Fayetteville, it's Fayetteville, Arkansas. We're in the Boston Mountains, but this state, I think people need to really come here to the entire state, whether it's Hot Springs, Little Rock, Fayetteville, all these towns. It is a slice of Americana. It is people think, oh, you're out there in the South, and it's called the natural state for a reason, but there's so much history, Native American history. We went to a Toltec Mound State Park, when we were in Little Rock, but then we also went to Pinnacle Mountain, Hot Springs. We did. I always keep calling it Lake DeGray, but DeGray Lake, which all their state parks, they have 52 state parks, all free admission. Now, if you camp or do things, there's a charge, but 52 state parks. So there's a park for every week. So you could spend a year here, but it's the natural state. When you come here, you really feel that way. Did you feel that when you first set foot in Arkansas? And was this your first time in Arkansas, Debbie?
Number of years ago, I was in Bentonville, Arkansas, to see Crystal Bridges, this well-known art
Oh,
museum there, and wrote a story. I think we have it, and you have it, but it was kind of like when Mayberry meets Manhattan kind of thing, and it was just a very charming town, and surprises all over the place when it comes to like great restaurants that maybe you wouldn't expect to be in a smaller town like that. But as far as a natural state, every time I've got it's especially here in Hot Springs, it was just so beautifully wooded all over the place and green. And when I went up to
green.
the observation tower at the top, you could look out and see, and you'd have this great vista, and it was green as far as the eyes could see, because it was just, it was like looking out and saying, oh my gosh, this is like this bird in paradise out here. And people they come, they're there to hike, they're there to boat, they're there to fish, they're there, it's like it's a great outdoor paradise, I think.
But it's within a city, so that's the unique thing.
Absolutely.
There's
It is
like
kind of like
it's like Borrego Springs, California. It's
right.
within Anza-Borrego
Yes.
Desert State Park, this little village. But Hot Springs is a downtown and a national park. So, like, wouldn't you think this is one of the best urban parks on the planet? That's where I was going with all of this. It's like amazing that
It is
this.
amazing, and they bill it as when urban meets rural, and it is the truth, But you're right there on Main Street in the downtown section, and you're walking along. A part of that section is the national park, and it's filled with history, which I think is wonderful. But then you've also got the whole natural paradise there as well. But I think it is one of the more unique national parks that I've been to, and I know a lot of people that have never been to Arkansas, never really even heard of Hot Springs National Park, and so it's not on the radar for a lot of people, maybe outside of the region or the area. And I was really excited to go because not only, as I told you before, I'm interested in visiting all the national parks, all of them in the United States, but because I really wanted to kind of put it on people's radar, spotlight it, telling them that whatever, either if they have any kind of preconceived notions about the middle of the country for some reason or wherever that it is, because a lot of people are like, oh well, Arkansas, why would I go there? Nebraska, why would I go there? I mean, there's a lot of that, because people are more interested in maybe going coast to coast or, whatever it is. But I really wanted to shine a light on this place because I think it is very unique and very special.
It is. And the green, like you said, hit us. We actually, I think we came more from a desert front at that point too. And it
Right.
just really, it hit us. And having water stations, there's these water fountains. So this is the cool thing. So there's literally hot springs there, water, these spa waters and spas, which are all part of, like, there's a national park. In fact, you went to the brewery, Superior
Yes.
Brewery. I'm glad you got there. That makes their beer from this water. That was unique. Did you enjoy the
Very
beer? It's
very unique. It's and the fact that there's these historic bathhouses. It's called Bathhouse Row, and many of them were built in the either the late 1800s or most of them in the early 1900s, but they're these historic buildings. They're very ornate. They're very grand, and one of them is Fordyce, and that's the National Park Visitor Center. But it's even more than that. It's like a museum as well, because you can take a self-guided tour or a tour with a ranger, and you can go on these different levels of the visitor center and see what the bathing was like back then. What kind of facilities, what kind of equipment did they use? It's fascinating, and you can read all about the history of how did it get going, and this was all in the golden era of bathing, and Hot Springs was like America's resort, and it was a pretty popular place, and a lot of people came from all over to quote unquote take the waters, a lot because their doctors encouraged them to do so, because they believed that the waters had curative properties, that they were therapeutic, and so people came from all over, and they would get massages and soak and, get different special treatments. And today there are two bathhouses where you can actually go and soak. One is more traditional than the other, but they're both give visitors an opportunity to go into one of these bathhouses, and it's grand. I went into both of them because I wanted to experience it both ways.
This is like way before Speedos and bikinis.
Oh, we're back to the Speedo. The bikinis are fine, but the Speedos, please stop it.
But the one bathhouse that is kept, the most oldest continuing bathhouse is Buckstaff, and it's very traditional. And this
Buck
is the
naked.
one where you can be in your birthday suit. It's an
No
optional
way.
thing. Women and men are separated and have their own bathhouse areas, and and you soak in these very old traditional tubs. You get your own tub, and then from there you go and you get the steam. You get wrapped in the steam towels and the hot towels and lie there, and then you go into the sitz baths, and then you go into the steam cabinets, which I thought were a hoot. So there are these actual cabinets, like they look like boxes, and people's heads are sticking out.
Like washing machines.
And it's hysterical. And it's like being in a sauna, but only your head is sticking out, and it's
no way.
It's hysterical. And so I needed to do that whole experience to see how it was and how it was done before. And then I went into the Quapaw bathhouse, which is still a historic bathhouse, but on a more modern angle. They are public baths, and they are co-ed, so of course it's mandatory to wear a swimsuit. But it was lovely just as well, and I got my soaking opportunities. And I would say that if you really are interested in how they used to do it, then definitely do the Buckstaff.
Oh, that's interesting because,
funny.
well, this is the only national park kind of thing where you can get naked. When we were in Cape Canaveral National Seashore, there's a sign, and I took the photo of the sign saying, be warned, there's nudists on the beach in this area. And that's not the exact wording, but basically you could get naked on the beach on a national seashore. And I'm like, well, this is interesting and cool. But, our national parks are for us and enjoyment too, so I'm like, well, some people want to strip it down, let it all hang out, So,
Ew.
well, no, I mean, listen, our bodies, we look at animals when they're naked. So they're looking at us too, but in a bathhouse they're not, so this is, and so, I mean, the people's heads just poking out, that's cool. But, it's cool because, we didn't do it. So what was it like actually getting in the water? I mean, these are hot springs, so is the water's not treated or anything, right? This is like pure natural water.
And it's hot water. I mean, it's not blistery hot, not like it comes out of the spring, which is insanely hot. And you can go actually to the spring. You can go to the hot water cascade, which is and see the water exiting the earth, and that's supposedly about 143 degrees Fahrenheit, which is insane. So obviously you are not soaking in that hot of a water, kind of thing. So it felt good in both places. I just think the traditional is like, if you want to see history, kind of what it's like, it's quite interesting, and people are very, very interested to see that whole experience. So you can also get massages. You can, buy a package and get all sorts of different things added onto your experience. But I loved it. I thought it was very unique, and of course, all the facilities and everything are very, it's very historic. So it's old. It's not.
Yeah.
It is what it was. So it's quite fun, and all women are there. So everybody's all, like I said, separated.
It's all okay.
With sexes. Yeah. So, and people are in between. They're going from one to the other. You're kind of, some people are chatting and saying, this is really interesting, and some people are like, I like that part of it, I don't like that part of it, kind of thing. And so it's fascinating, and seeing the actual equipment in the Fordyce bathhouse was, and reading all the information about it was, fascinating to me. And then going and actually doing the experience, so it was one thing reading about it, the other thing was actually experiencing. So it was wonderful.
That's kind of cool, because it's part of history too.
It is. History comes alive in many different ways, and the other bathhouses are, I think all of them are being used except one that is not open. But one is a cultural center for the National Park Service. One is the gift shop for the National Park Service, and one, as you mentioned, the Superior is a brewing house right now. And it was the only brewery, and it uses its the natural spring water for its beer and for its beer. And so it was like
it's
a
good beer.
combination of, this is wonderful, I don't know, it's just a wonderful entertainment for visitors to be able to do all this.
When you're in the little box with your heads poking out, it sounds no, I'm just stuck on, I think I saw something on I Love Lucy where they did that. Lucy and Ethel did something.
Yes. Is
it true?
I think they did.
I think so
that's
too.
Funny.
I know, it's the first
That's
thing
really
in my mind.
funny.
It's Lucy and Ethel.
Well, you got to think back then. Okay, but that leads me to my next question. Segue. Bum, bum, bum. All these baseball people went there, and so there's a baseball trail. So we started to do a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And by the way, everybody, there's a tiny town there too. There's like a little tiny town thing that was close when we were there.
Another
rail town. A tiny town, not the movie. And that's two different things. But there's a tiny town where it's about a railroad museum that, it was just, when we were there, everything was just slowly starting to open up. But it was right next to one of the signs for the baseball trail. And so all these baseball guys went there, and then and the mafia went there. So you went to the mafia museum. I mean, I know it's
museum.
A different name.
Yeah,
I know.
But, wow, same thing.
Gangster.
The Gangster Museum. Yeah, and it's people are so surprised. They're like, "What are you talking about? A gangster museum in Hot Springs?" And I'm like, "You don't understand the history. I mean, it's they came." Gangsters came, outlaws came. They all came not only to kind of like relax and whatever in the hot springs, because it was this resort, but there was illegal gambling, there were these casinos, there were brothels, there was a lot of other kind of colorful entertainment to offer. But even more importantly, it was a way to kind of escape. If the heat was on, it was a good escape, because the powers that were in that town, the officials, the policemen, they tended to look the other way when these people came, because these people, they were friendly, they were cooperative, they spent money in the town. Some of them were very charitable and gave money to organizations and to help the town. So they really coexisted with the locals in this little mountain hamlet. And it was not unexpected for people to walk down the streets and see, the likes of Al Capone, and outlaws that were there, Ma Barker's gang, Bonnie and Clyde, they all came through the town. And then you're talking about Major League Baseball, which it is the birthplace of spring training, and originally it was the Chicago team that came, and it was like, oh my gosh, they came, and they were like all these guys that were kind of like, had been doing all these stuff to their bodies in the wintertime and gotten, whatever it was, they either drank too much, ate too much, whatever. They needed to come and take the hot springs, and
see, you're
then
from
they just started
Chicago,
to
so they eat that pizza over in your hometown.
Okay, but then Al Capone was part of the mafia in Chicago. Yeah,
absolutely. He's
So
Chicago,
yes. Debbie, this is why you really went. You had to go do your family history. I'm just kidding. Because she's from Chicago. I'm just messing with you. But think about it. I mean, from what I know from our friends and you, Chicago winter, you don't want to really do it. Like, it's brutal. Like our friend that ran the James Cotton Blues Club, she said, like, when we told her about Madison, Wisconsin, when she's like, that's nothing. Our cars were buried and you could have another car on top and nobody would know. And you're not getting your car out to the next season. Like, that's it. Get over it. It's not happening, because that was back in the 70s or 80s, but
Yeah.
she was like,
it's the truth. It's harsh
really?
winters and people also, the big New York connection of the mobs, I mean, they all came from New York, a big connection, and they came from these big cities to this place. It was a great kind of secluded hideaway for them, and not only that, they really enjoyed it. They had a good time. They had a great time.
And let's not even bring up Bill Clinton.
No, but wait, you could just say all these gangsters with their heads poking out of a little wooden box.
Oh, I don't think they cared about it, because look at the Roman baths, right?
Yeah.
So
I
don't think men care. No, they don't care. Now I'm going back to Seinfeld episodes where, okay, I won't go, I'll behave. But like, honestly, when you think about, men have been in these hot baths,
for
in Italy
centuries.
for years. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So, it's just so fascinating to me. Here it happens. And here's one of America's truly, I know it's Spa City, Spa Town, but it truly was designated a national recreation spot, if you will, national park. We had Yellowstone, but this kind of slid in beforehand. There's an argument on it, but it really is about, it was designated like, this is an area of importance, way back when. It's kind of interesting.
It was at that time, President Andrew Jackson, he saw, he viewed it as, the hot springs were these natural wonders. They needed to be protected somehow. So that's why the government got involved in that in order to protect it. And
Andrew Jackson, think about that. Andrew Jackson, of all people.
Yeah.
I mean, the only really good thing he did was really win the Battle of New Orleans.
Careful.
Uh-oh. Did I say that? Well, he did a lot of bad things to Native Americans. So I'm sorry.
But he was, but he at least had the foresight to protect these
he did. He did
special place, which was 40 years before Yellowstone. This predated.
So I'm being nice. I'm being nice.
So you have to look at that thinking, hey, what's that? The great amount of upside here that he protected it, and that we still can go there, and that it is still protected. And awesome.
I think it's great. I mean, it is, and I just want to say, like, Andrew Jackson doing that. I mean, you've got to think back then, and people like, I say that about Jackson because he did do some really bad things, but he did some. It's part of our history, right? These presidents and everything. Let me finish and get myself out of the hole that I dug.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to get out. There's no way I'm ever going to get out of any hole that I dug. But honestly, he did do that, and he did help win the Battle of New Orleans. But you've got to think back to those times to actually go, we need to protect and preserve, the mentality to do that. And I think Thomas Jefferson is some of his evil stuff too. Look what he did, and we wouldn't have the Lewis and Clark experience without him, and some parts of that are bad and some are good, you know what I mean? So as we go through these parks, I want to say go to these parks because they interpret them, the history, not the part. When you go in the parks, they interpret things in such a clear manner. You can take your opinions and learn from there and have exactly what you want as an opinion or your beliefs, but they interpret what went down 100%. And I think that's what the park system does so well. So Andrew Jackson sets us aside. It's like Nixon set aside the EPA. He signed the Wild Horse Act to save and protect wild horses. People would never have thought he did that, but he did. So it's the same kind of thing. So that's where I'm digging myself out of my hole. But when you go to a park and you read the boards, no one has to dig themselves out of a hole.
It's to me, it's fascinating, the history, because you know, a lot of, you know, a lot of good things went down and a lot of bad things went down, you know. So, you know, if you don't, sometimes if you don't open your mind to both sides, you don't learn both sides either, you know.
Ooh,
and
well put.
So, you know, that's fascinating to me. But, you know, I mean, it's like, who would have thought this, you know, beautiful little natural place, you know, would have been a place for the gangsters and for the mobsters and for the outlaws and also for Major League Baseball players like Babe Ruth, you know.
Right?
And so you're like going, oh my gosh, everything is in this town. This is like amazing. I mean, I only went and expected to, you know, do the bathhouse thing and maybe, you know, whatever. But I thought to myself, whoa, look at all this other stuff that's happening here. And nobody would ever be able to tell you unless you're a total baseball nut about, you know, whether you knew that spring training, the birthplace is Hot Springs, Arkansas, of all places, you know?
I know. And they have a mural trail on, I want to say that was one of the experiences we did, was go around and look at all the murals. And I love, because that's something you can do. I mean, who knows if COVID ever comes, well, it's still around, right? But being outside and looking at public art tells the story of an area. And you said town. And I think that is so important that you said town, because Hot Springs is a city. And we felt the same way. It's like a town. I know on the outskirts you can get all the stuff you need and the box stores and everything, but it just felt so, it's like a very real, maybe it's in the water, right? People say it's in the water. It's so relaxing there.
Yeah,
chilled out and real.
It's wonderful. And there's trails leading right from town up the mountain. You know, you can walk up about a mile and a half up to the observation, the Hot Springs Mountain Tower. Or you could drive the scenic highway up there. Either way, I say get up there so you can get a nice broad view of the landscape, because it's really
beautiful.
A great perspective of the landscape from there. And then I always am one of these people that when I go to destinations, I like to see if there's any types of gardens, botanical gardens, you know, forest gardens, sculpture gardens, and Garvin Woodland Gardens is, you know, it's a charming, beautiful place. And I was really entranced by it. It's about 5 miles on the shoreline of Lake Hamilton. It's really a paradise. It's 210 acres. It's belongs to the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, and was donated and gifted. It's beautiful, with a Japanese garden. There's bridges. The Children's Adventure Garden is phenomenal, and that Treehouse is.
Oh, that's the thing. Everybody kept talking about the Treehouse, and we didn't get to experience this. I think they were slowly opening up at this point, and the Treehouse. Tell us about this, because we still want to go.
It is suspended amid the trees, and there are 4 levels.
How
and
cool.
each level focuses on, for example, the roots come, you know, at the bottom, and then there's the trunk and the branches and the leaves, and finally the flowers or the fruit. And so, you know, you get, and there's interpretive panels in there, and there's these beautiful little wooden seats, and it's wonderful. And people, they see it and they're like, oh my God. I mean, I'm an adult and I was like entranced. I was like, I just want to be in this tree.
Isn't that cool though? Isn't that awesome though?
Me too.
I love that.
It reminds me of what's that movie with River Phoenix and Sean Penn? No, it wasn't Sean Penn. Stand By Me movie.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, you know, there's a beautiful fairy garden for the children. And
I love that.
You know, then one of my favorites is the Anthony Chapel. And this place is so unique, and it's one of the most requested wedding venues, and it is all wood and glass and this 57-foot big vaulted ceiling, and it's such an incredible place. And we were so lucky, because when we walked in there wasn't a soul in there, and you know, nobody is pushing us from behind, so to speak, you know, so we walked in and just sat there and in quiet, and it was just
chill.
stunning,
Nice.
just a stunning place. But this Woodland Gardens, the garden is truly special. I would like everybody to put it on their list if they go down to Hot Springs, because it's just a little bit outside of town. It's not 15 minutes from town, and it is very, very, very special.
This is amazing to me. Like, here's this, Al Capone gangster mob history, baseball history, Hot Springs, let's have some luxury. And then here's this garden, with kids having a treehouse. I think that's what's so cool about Hot Springs is it has all these, I don't know, it just feels no matter what, down home good,
Yes. Yes.
When we were there, one of the things we experienced, which I thought was really cool, was the Northwoods Trail. And I mean, it's a series of trails, not just one, but it's about mountain biking, and mountain biking is taking America by storm. It's one of the top things happening. And we walked the trail because don't put us on a bike. That's not a good idea.
No,
and you need to put us in the hot tub and in the hot spring.
No, but there's some
we did that.
Scary jumps for
I mean, it's amazing
cyclists.
what they do. And we went to another park. Tracy took us to another park where you could see where people were practicing and learning. It's, when I say the natural state, I mean, that's what they're known for. And they even changed their name because of what they do. And it seems that Arkansas as a whole is very family oriented, very recreation, go out and kayak, bicycle, mountain bike, and I think Hot Springs really showcased that. These mountain trails, we saw people that were just starting, and there's different levels. We were watching geese. We were watching, this was a area that's part of a water reclamation area, I think. And so it was kind of closed off to the public. And they said, well, this is happening across the country. We have this. And we went walking through there. We were looking at fungus and rocks and gems and hardwood trees. Like, you'll see magnolias growing in these forests in Arkansas. And I always trip out on that because, we're so used to magnolias being in downtown cities and all proper. And then when you see magnolias growing wild, it's just beautiful. It's just it's amazing. So we did that part, which they have become a huge destination with like festivals and annual events and
music festivals and all sorts of things. And there's even baseball that goes on there, and it's just it's a very lively town, and also it does have good food options as well.
Oh, tell us about this, because our good food really came from Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast, which is down south of I don't want to say south. It's just side of Hot Springs, and that's where we could see DeGray Lake. We went there. We saw bald eagles hanging out, and when we were there, her and Bob, Tiffany and Bob, have a log style cabin, but it's not a cabin. Awesome. It's a huge mansion, like really. And you can sit on the porch and watch hummingbirds, cardinals, you name it. But we were watching barred owls fly down. They have over 50 to 70 acres of trees, and Bismarck is the town, but the name is really because of this mine that's on their property, old mine that's not operating, obviously, but we watched barred owls teach their young to hunt from their porch, and they would dive down and the fireflies would fly up. I mean, this was amazing. So our main foodie experience was them, and we also went downtown, like down the street where you could get gas, and this gas station had really good pizza. Seriously, but the lake was right there. So I want to bring that up because there's downtown Hot Springs, and I want to hear all about it because we didn't get to do all that when we were there, but except for the brewery, we did good there. But these little towns, don't be afraid to go into the gas station and order food. Louisiana is like that. Arkansas is like that. There's parts of Kentucky. There's parts of these southern states that are like that. And the food is good and home cooked and cared for. And people come in for their daily dose of goodness.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I just want to say that, like, but tell us about your experience in regards to food in hot springs.
There's, some places that I enjoyed was Collective Coffee, with Collective with a K, coffee and tea. Is a great way to start your day. Has great beverages, has some really good breakfast items, and is a really nice down-home local place. Very, very nice, charming. People are very friendly there. By the way, they're extremely Arkansas, very friendly. And so yeah, that and we found a cafe 1217, a little bit outside of the main drag area, and it was really nice, fresh, local food made from scratch, very seasonal, a lot of good salads and sandwiches. And then Kilwin's, which is if you like ice cream or any kind of sweets in the afternoon, that's the place right down on Main Street. And then we had dinner. We tried the Porterhouse, which, if you like meat, this is your place. But I also, as a pescatarian, somebody who likes fish and seafood, found some very good fish there, surprisingly, because I just didn't think there would be. And then great Mexican south of the border type of Latin food at Nuevo Latino, Rolando's. And then we went over to Lake Hamilton, and there was a Fisherman's Wharf place that had some really good seafood, and it was smack dab right on the waterway. And
nice.
You could watch the sunset, and then it started raining like crazy, and you could just hear the rain on the roof, and you weren't getting wet because it was covered, and it was and the boats were out. It was a really kind of a cool setting for that. And if you like the bar scene, you can go to the oldest one is the Ohio Club, the oldest bar in the whole state, dates back to 1905.
Wow.
Great history, speakeasy, cigar store, legal gambling up there, and a lot of the gangsters were there, the baseball greats were there, a lot of musical acts were there, really well-known, musical singers and groups came through. So that's kind of a cool place. And then when it came to staying, lots of accommodations. I was at the Hotel Hot Springs. I think you were too at one point.
Yes,
right?
yes, it's amazing.
Yes.
You have views of the park. I mean,
yes.
I love it there. I thought they were really cool because they also have some, they're by like a conference center.
Yeah,
and
they're
then
attached to
there's
the
murals.
conference center. Yeah. The convention center. Yeah, exactly. And good location. It's just a few blocks from the heart of everything, and it's gives you all your amenities, and it was
nice.
A good place to stay. There are lots of places. There's also the historic Arlington Hotel, which is the Grand Dame there, right on off of Bathhouse Row, right down the street. And there's also, as you mentioned, B&Bs and inns and all sorts of other options. So you've got
everyone
your choice
has a
there.
hotel circle
Yes.
too, like the hotel row of the brand hotels. But I thought like staying at the Hotel Hot Springs right there, we were able to walk to like, if you don't have time, like that is the place to stay. And if you're staying overnight, you can experience part of Hot Springs National Park, even there. Just take a scenic drive. You can walk downtown. You can park and go. And I think when you're doing a long distance thing, that's kind of cool. And then there's like you're saying there's like Tiffany's and other places that are out in out in nature. So for there's like everything. Like Tiffany's is nature, that is so nature and out of and not far to go to the city, but they are right. Hotel Hot Springs is right in the heart of it. But we had amazing views of the park from there.
Yeah,
amazing views,
because it is more of there's more of a high rise. I mean, it's more built up, so you do get great views, which is really nice. But we liked it because of the accessibility. It's just so easy to walk out our door.
I know. I'd love to just be able to walk out
somewhere.
Of a hotel.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. I'm
park
just
your
like,
car
I'm so
and
done.
just walk.
Because how many times will you not not go and do something? It's nice, like at Tiffany's, you don't have to go. Once you sit in there, you're just going to sit on the patio and watch the birds, and that's so awesome. That's an experience you want to do, and have wine and cocktails or whatever. But when you go and you're in the hot springs mode, when you get there, and if you've driven from a long distance, a lot of times
Yeah.
you're just like, I don't want to do anything. But if you could just take a few steps and eat and see a
Yes.
mural or even be in the park in a few steps, that is unique and
Yeah.
awesome. That's,
You know,
I mean, it's just that I love those two different experiences.
Two different experiences. Yeah. There's something to be said. It's so fun to be able to say, oh, I'm walking 2 blocks and I'm in a national park. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just kind of a fun feeling,
I know New York has
that
Central Park, but I mean, it's a big Central, which we haven't done, so I can't talk about it. But our friend Ruth Milstein always talks about it, and so many, like everyone's like, you've got to do Central Park, and I'm like, well,
of course,
I'll leave the car, and someone has to pick us up and take us around because I'm not doing New York. You just did New York.
Nobody drives in New York. You either you walk forever, which is wonderful. You take the subway if you want. You can take an Uber if you want, a taxi, whatever it is. But
it's like Washington D.C. and we're gonna be in Maryland in a few days. Doing that, and that's before this airs. But it's very interesting that setup about what people think about when they're planning their trip. Can I drive here?
Yeah.
And if you are tired and you get to a place like a hotel that you can just chill
Walk
out
and
you're
cool.
set. I mean, they even have a Subway restaurant outside. I don't normally promote that kind of thing, but you have stuff right there that you can do in that downtown. I love the murals. They are one of the best mural cities we've been to.
Oh,
just
it's wonderful.
So much,
they're
isn't
so
it?
colorful.
Oh my gosh, the murals and the sculptures. There's that one with the Native American lady just pouring the water.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, outside the Arlington Hotel. It's so it just is so beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm so glad you went there. So that is not a normal national park experience.
No, it's not. It's one of the most unique
That's the beauty
national
of it,
parks
though.
I've ever been to, and I would put it up there because it's definitely so different than what people expect or think about when you say the word national park. And
you have mobster stuff. So I mean, the mob history. Reading your article about the mob, I'm all like, I'm in.
Okay, so I just have to say, this whole thing has got me to a cartoon strip called The Wooden Box. And you have Al Capone in the little wooden box being steamed, and he's right next to Babe Ruth, who is in the little wooden box. And Babe Ruth is like, hey, I just hit a home run. And Al Capone is all like, yeah, bet it on you. Don't you ever screw up.
And it's funny because they probably, many of them met each other and commingled because of these bathhouses, and also because of the the Ohio Club, and I mean, it's like these places that both these groups and all these groups would actually be at, And so it is kind of funny to think that they were all there in much of the same time, and they all coexisted.
Can you imagine checking Al Capone into your bed and breakfast or your hotel?
I would dig it.
And I heard he was. I mean, the guide at the Gangster Museum, he said that the outlaws or the gangsters and the mobsters were, especially the mobsters, were excellent tippers. People really, the locals really appreciated their tipping because they were very generous, very generous.
Wow. But they did, because it was like, just shut up and here, I'm going to pay you to shut up.
But there's also that look. The look.
But it's also they were just very, they were very. These people were very happy to be there at this town. They really enjoyed it. For many, it was a wonderful getaway and vacation, and whether they were trying to evade the heat or not, whatever. But it. And some of them even took up, Oni Madden took up permanent residence there. He was not allowed to live back in New York, the state of New York, till he was out.
But what I heard about the baseball guys is they went there to clean out, right, and be able to go and do their game. And some of them just went there, they did their spa thing, and they were like,
Yep.
oh, this is so much fun, I'm partying.
Yeah.
So we've
but
heard that like it didn't quite like they had too much fun in Hot Springs.
Okay, but look, Debbie,
Just
your
I can
saying,
choice of
imagine.
words,
heard
Debbie,
through the grapevine.
your choice of words was a great getaway, and Al Capone's going, yep.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Yep.
perfect. I know. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Debbie, it is always
delightful.
good to have you on the show. We
Yes.
can't wait to catch up with you. I know you know, when this airs, you'll be off in Europe having a grand old time. And we can't wait to hear about your experiences when you come back. So everyone, Debbie's article on Hot Springs is up on nationalparktraveling.com. You'll see it in the next issue of Parks and Travel magazine. And also go to bigblendradio.com where you can hear her every fourth Tuesday, because the Fire Monkey goes everywhere. And now she's off to Europe to, spread some Fire Monkey joy and get us some good stories about Europe being open. Travel is open again. Let's do what we can to get travel back on and be the best travelers we can be so we can keep it open. I just want to say that COVID is not gone. So let's behave so that we can keep it open.
Keep traveling.
I'm just saying.
I agree.
Yes,
I agree.
Just saying.
I agree. And safe travels to you, ladies. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too. Take care. Bye, Fire Monkey.
All right.
Be safe.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.